Hidden Connections revealed, how a black maid's amazing Japanese friend transformed a millionaire's life. The first time Mary met Hiroshi, the weight of the world felt just a little lighter. She stood in Mr. Patterson's sprawling kitchen, scrubbing dishes with water that burned her hands, yet somehow, under the bright morning sun spilling through tall windows, she felt hope awaken within her. Hiroshi walked in, a gentle smile on his face that seemed to bridge continents, cultures, and worlds. A Japanese exchange student, living with her employer, lit a spark of friendship she could never have imagined. Mary, a single mother of two, poured her heart into her jobs. Everyday life was an endless cycle, waking up at dawn, putting in long hours, and returning home to help her kids with homework. Her gaze often drifted to the simple things, keeping the lights on, putting food on the table, and sometimes, in her quietest moments, she wished for more. Hiroshi's laughter echoed in the hallway, bringing brightness she desperately needed. With each laugh, her burdens felt manageable. "How do you do it?" Hiroshi asked one day, glancing around the humble confines of her tiny apartment. "You work so hard and still manage to smile." Her answer was raw, filled with sacrifice and love, something he had never truly encountered before. She told him about the sacrifices she made for her children, and how hard work had always defined her life. As they discussed their backgrounds, they learned how respect and resilience ran deep in both their cultures, fostering an unexpected bond that neither expected. But things began to change when Hiroshi encouraged her to aim higher, to seek a leadership role in the community. The thought of it sent shivers down her spine. The fear of judgment loomed large. Friends and family filled her ears with concern, worried that dreaming bigger could rock the already precarious boat of their existence. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Their laid-back conversations grew heavier with the weight of social injustice and inequalities they both felt in their lives. One fateful night, a sudden crisis shook the community. A rapid housing development threatened to displace families like hers. The air was thick with anger and despair as Mary and Hiroshi sprang into action, galvanizing their neighbors and weaving a quilt of hope out of shared struggles. Through church meetings held under pale light bulbs, they rallied friends and relatives, fusing their backgrounds into something beautiful. But the backlash hit hard. Old prejudices resurfaced, and Mary faced whispered criticisms that echoed like thunder in her ears. Doubt began to creep in, a battle of loyalty against desire. Standing before a crowd of uneasy faces, she felt the weight of her sacrifices pressing down. Her heart raced, yet she stepped forward. Voice trembling, Mary spoke about her worth. Hopes clashed with fears as the pressure mounted. Would their friendship be enough to defy the world's stigma, or would the community's voices drown them out? Just then, a figure emerged from the sidelines, none other than Mr. Patterson. The millionaire stood there, a mix of history and potential in his presence. The crowd held its breath, knowing he held the power to either sever or unite their fractured lives, forcing Mary to confront what she truly wanted in a world bound by expectations. Would he stand with them, or would he yield to old prejudices, forever changing their intertwined paths? The room fell into a tense silence. All eyes shifted nervously from Mary to Mr. Patterson. He stood, hands in his pockets, his crisp suit shimmering slightly under the dim overhead lights, a figure of authority and privilege. Mary's heart pounded, a fierce drumbeat that drowned out her doubts. "What are you going to do?" Hiroshi whispered, his voice muffled by the anxious buzz around them. She stole a glance at Hiroshi, whose eyes shimmered with belief. He saw potential in her that she struggled to recognize in herself. Mr. Patterson cleared his throat, a small sound that commanded reverence. "Mary," he began, gazing directly at her. "I've been watching you. Your dedication, your passion, it doesn't go unnoticed. A few murmurs rippled through the crowd, uncertainty bubbling at the edges of their collective breath. Gathering her courage, Mary nodded, urging her voice to be steady. This community is at a tipping point. We can't let them tear us apart. We enough. A voice shot back from the crowd, a neighbor she recognized. You think you can make a difference? What do you know about fighting the system? You're just a maid. Her heart sank. Anger and shame battled inside her. But beneath it all, a fierce determination ignited. She couldn't let them see her retreat. I know enough. I know what it means to struggle. To be scared and still keep going. Our strength is in unity, together. The room vibrated with uncertainty, a tug-of-war of trust versus skepticism. Mr. Patterson's brow furrowed as he evaluated the tension. Mary, he said, a puzzled look in his eyes. What do you propose? She swallowed hard. Was she ready to voice her vision? A quick glance at Hiroshi reassured her that she wouldn't be alone. We need to organize a town hall meeting, she said, her voice thick with determination. We invite everyone, the developers, city officials, anyone with power. We don't just complain, we present a united front. People need to know what's at stake. Another whisper broke out in the crowd, a mix of hope and fear floated from face to face. Each moment felt like a fragile dance on the edge of change. Mr. Patterson crossed his arms, his brows still knit with worry. Do you really believe the wealthy elite will listen? You need more than just a good idea. Mary felt the weight of his doubt. She could see it in his eyes. He had spent a lifetime navigating the complexities of money and influence. But deep within her, something sparked. This was not just about wealth, it was about humanity. Suddenly, the buzz of the crowd transformed. People began to shout their agreement, voices overlapping, the room alive with energy. We support you, Mary. A chorus of support surged, wrapping around her like a warm blanket. Hiroshi stepped forward, hand raised like a beacon. The time for us to be silent is over. We can show them who we are. Just then, Mr. Patterson raised his hand for silence. All right, I may not agree with you, Mary, but I see the passion you all have. Maybe, just maybe, I can help. His words hung in the air, a potent blend of promise and uncertainty. Could he indeed be their bridge to those who held the power to enact real change? In that moment, Mary felt a mixture of fear and exhilaration flooding her soul. What if he fails us? She thought, but the voice of hope urged her on. As she looked out at the crowd, a mix of familiar faces and strangers united in the pursuit of justice, she realized this was more than a stand against the development. It was a stand for all of them, a fight for future generations. But in that fragile moment of connection, an even bigger fear began to creep in. If they were successful, what would it mean for her and her kids? Would this newfound spirit expose them to even greater challenges? With Mr. Patterson's resolve to assist them, they could move forward. But would it be enough to face the looming challenges ahead? The air crackled with anticipation, their lives intertwined in an uncertain fate. The real battle was just beginning. Would they be able to fortify their community against an overwhelming tide? Would this alliance stand strong, or would it shatter under pressure? As Mary gazed out into the sea of anxious faces, she felt the weight of the fight ahead. Confidence bubbled along with doubt, leaving her to question one thing: were they ready to face whatever came next together? The mood in the room shifted as the weight of Mr. Patterson's offer settled like dust in the air. Hope mingled with fear, making it hard to breathe. Mary felt her pulse quicken. Can we really do this? She thought, scanning the faces in the crowd. She saw skepticism interlaced with courage, like a patchwork quilt of emotions that united them in this moment. All right then, Mr. Patterson continued, his tone unexpectedly warm, cutting through the tension. Let us figure out how to make this town hall a reality. Mary's heart soared at his words. They could actually do this. Beside her, Hiroshi nodded encouragingly, his smile a beacon of optimism. "We're all in this together," he said, voice steady amid the static of the room. "Let us make a list of what we'll need." The crowd echoed his sentiment, a flood of voices peppering the air with ideas: a location, flyers, potential speakers, and volunteers to help spread the word. Mary felt a surge of energy. Each suggestion ignited a flame in her soul, as if they were building a fire powerful enough to illuminate the shadows of their fears. As they began organizing, however, an unsettling thought wormed its way into her mind. What if the backlash was worse than before? Would the developers retaliate? Would she lose her job? The prospect of her children suffering because of her actions tightened her chest. Pushing those thoughts aside, she focused on the task ahead. She took a deep breath, feeling the camaraderie swell in the room. What efforts can we make to ensure safety and support for everyone involved? She proposed. Groups began to form, and the chatter escalated into a rich symphony of strategy and fervor. Hours passed as they hammered out details, and at the end of the evening, Mary stood before a small army of her friends and neighbors. They were tired but determined. A collective fire burned brightly in their eyes, defiant against the darkness that threatened to swallow them whole. "Thank you all for being here tonight," she said, her voice quaking with emotion. "Let us remember, we aren't just fighting for ourselves. We're carving out a future for our kids and their kids. The strength we show starts here, with us, as a united community." Applause erupted, echoing off the walls, and Mary felt tears prick the corners of her eyes. Slowly, confidence washed over her like rain after a long drought. They were building something monumental, a new way to live and fight for their home. Yet, as the crowd dispersed, Mary found herself lingering at the door, heart heavy with uncertainty. She wanted to believe in the voice that urged her on, but shadows of doubt crept back. How would they face the backlash awaiting them? Mr. Patterson caught up with her, his brows furrowed in thought. "You have something special in you, Mary. But tell me, how do you plan to handle the consequences if this doesn't go as you envision?" His question hung between them, heavy with implications. Mary met his gaze and felt a chill. It was one thing to be brave in the moment, it was another to weather the storm beyond it. "Maybe that's what keeps me up at night," she admitted slowly. "But we owe it to ourselves to try, don't we?" Mr. Patterson chuckled softly, a hint of light dancing in his eyes. "You're right. Fear can be a powerful motivator as much as hope can be. Let us see where this leads us, shall we?" As he walked away, Mary felt a mixture of apprehension and resolve. Could they truly withstand everything that was coming? And just as that thought settled in her mind, the ringing of her phone broke the silence. She fished it out of her pocket, her hands shaking as she swiped to answer. "Hello." A familiar voice on the other end made her heart drop. "Mary, you need to come home. There's been an incident with the kids." Panic rose like a tide as the implications rushed through her. She was stepping into a whole new arena of challenges. Would she be able to fight for her community while keeping her family safe? The real battle was just beginning. Mary's legs felt heavy as she rushed to the door, panic gnawing at her insides. The warm glow of hope that had ignited earlier in the town hall dimmed, overshadowed by a father's instinct taking charge. Every step toward her car was fueled by anxiety, her mind racing with fear for her children. A vision of them, faces painted with confusion or worse, flashed before her eyes. What could have happened? Sliding into the driver's seat, she gripped the wheel as she fought to steady her breath. The familiar route home felt like a maze of dread. She blinked back tears, reminding herself that she'd faced tough situations before. This wasn't just about her anymore, it was about all of them. That thought propelled her forward. The once comforting sight of her neighborhood now felt unfamiliar. As she pulled into her driveway, her mind spiraled with worst-case scenarios. She rushed inside, heart pounding loudly in her ears, to find her youngest son, Jamie, sitting on the living room floor, eyes wide like saucers. "Mom!" he exclaimed, showing immediate relief as he jumped to his feet. Mary caught sight of her daughter, Mia, beside him, tears streaming down her cheeks. For a second, the air filled with tension as Mary processed the scene before her, part relief, part fear. What happened? She demanded, crouching down to meet her daughter's alarmed gaze. Jamie, always the more outspoken of the two, jumped in. We were just playing, and then Mia fell. She hit her head. In that moment, time slowed. Mary's vision narrowed to her daughter's bruise, fading from red to purple, right across her forehead. You scared me, she said, a sob catching in her throat. Mia sniffled, wiping her nose with the back of her hand. But I'm okay. The stubbornness of a 6-year-old shone through her tear-streaked face, and Mary felt warmth replace some of her panic. Okay, we need to make sure, she said, gathering them both into a tight embrace. Just take it easy. I'm here. They sat together on the couch, the love of family cocooning her more than any fear of the external world ever could. As she comforted her children, a thought flickered in her mind: the demands of community versus family. This moment of newfound clarity felt fragile but real. A deep knock echoed from the front door, jolting Mary back to reality. Her heart sank. Who could that be? The thought of unwelcome news sent a shudder down her spine. I'll get it, Jamie said, bolting to the door, still oblivious to the doubt wrapping around his mother's heart. Mary took a deep breath, trying to calm her racing thoughts. What if it was someone from the development team? Or worse, a reporter seeking gossip after the town hall. She felt the weight of her unresolved decisions pressing heavily on her shoulders. Stay close, honey, she called to Jamie as he swung open the door, revealing Mr. Patterson standing on the porch, a serious expression on his face. Mary, we need to talk, he said, urgency clear in his voice. There's been an incident regarding the town hall meeting. It's worse than we expected. The room felt smaller, the shadows deeper. Mary squeezed Mia's hand tighter. How could they face whatever storm was brewing? Could their fledgling fight for community really hold ground against an unseen enemy? As Mr. Patterson stepped inside, the atmosphere thickened with uncertainty and urgency. Mary looked at her children, the spark of determination igniting within her again. They had faced fear, loss, and heartbreak before. This was just another battle in a much larger war. Tell me everything, she urged, ready to brace for whatever challenge lay ahead. But as Mr. Patterson opened his mouth to speak, a hidden truth began to unravel, and Mary felt the ground shift beneath her. What new revelations would test their strength as a community and as a family? Mary braced herself, her heart racing as she prepared for the words that would change everything. She stole a glance at her children, their innocent faces a reminder of why she had to be strong. Mr. Patterson, standing there with a furrowed brow, reminded her that the fight wasn't just personal anymore, it was for their community, their home. Last night, after the meeting, someone vandalized the construction site, he said, his voice steady but edged with tension. They left messages, warnings that were pretty alarming. Mary's mind reeled. Warnings? What kind of warnings? Anti-development phrases. Threats towards us, really. Someone wants to stop us from pushing this project forward. And they're willing to go to extremes to do it. Mia clung to Mary, and Jamie stood frozen, his youthful face puzzled. Are they going to hurt you? He asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Mary knelt down again, looking him directly in the eye. No, sweetheart, nobody is going to hurt us. We're safe in here, she assured him, but her heart felt heavy with uncertainty. But we have to be careful. This means we're going to need to stand together as a community. We can't let fear stop us. Mr. Patterson nodded. We need everyone on board. I thought about hosting another meeting, and this time, we need to address the threats head-on. Everyone needs to know what's at stake. Mary felt urgency build within her. The town hall meeting hadn't just sparked hope, it had ignited a flicker of resistance. But would the townspeople unite, or would this scare them back into silence? What if they come back? Mia's voice trembled, a reflection of the fear hanging in the air. Her mother brushed a strand of hair from Mia's face, offering comfort. "We'll face it together, just like we always do. Family first, right?" Jamie's eyes widened as if realizing the weight of the situation for the first time. "Can I help?" Mary smiled, pride swelling in her chest. "Of course. Everyone can help. Even you, Jamie. It's important for all of us to stand up for what we believe in." Mr. Patterson interjected, "We'll need to gather everyone to discuss our options." "Strength in numbers, right?" "Right," Mary agreed. She sensed the responsibility shifting away from her to the collective. They could be more powerful united than when standing alone. Just then, a loud crash came from the kitchen, making all of them jump. Mary's stomach dropped as she could only imagine what might have caused it. "I'll check it out," she said, moving quickly. "Wait." Jamie protested, but she shook her head. "Stay with Mr. Patterson. I'll be right back." She dashed through the hallway and into the kitchen. A kitchen chair lay overturned, and the cat darted out from under the table, startled by the sudden commotion. It was a harmless fright, but the noise still rattled her nerves. As she picked up the chair, she couldn't shake the feeling of being unmoored. Glancing out the window, she caught sight of a shadow moving across their yard. A figure slipped past, cloaked in darkness, their purpose unrecognizable. "Who was that?" she whispered under her breath. Returning to the living room, heart pounding in her chest, Mary felt the weight of uncertainty grow again. "Just the cat," she called out to Mr. Patterson and the kids, forcing a smile even though concern gnawed at her insides. But as she settled back into the moment, she knew deep down that the threats were only beginning. "Do we have any leads on who might be behind this?" Mary asked, determined to take charge. "Not yet, but I'll dig deeper," Mr. Patterson replied, his eyes scanning the room. "We need to find out who's behind this before it gets worse." As he spoke, Mary's thoughts were racing. What if someone she trusted was part of the problem? Could the lines between friend and foe blur when faced with community divides? The shadows outside deepened, and Mary felt something lurking just at the fringe of her vision. What had they unleashed? Mary felt as if the walls were closing in around her. The air felt dense, charged with fear and looming uncertainty. She glanced at Jamie, whose youthful optimism began to dim under the weight of the moment. Mia, still clinging tightly, had turned into her mother's lifeline. As a knot twisted in Mary's stomach, she longed for the simple days before ambitions and threats plagued their small town. "Let us turn the sound on the TV," Mr. Patterson suggested, breaking the thick silence. "Maybe the news will have something on the vandalism." With a flick of the remote, the screen lit up. Images of the construction site flashed on the screen, reporters casting a shadow over their dreams of progress. The headlines screamed of unrest and division. Mary tensed as she listened to the news reports of rising tensions in the community have reached a boiling point. Mia's small voice spoke up, "Are we on there, Mom?" Mary put on a brave face. Rather than answer, she pulled her daughter into a hug, trying to shield her from the harsh realities of the world outside. This was their home, their safe space, but how could she protect them when enemies seemed to lurk in the shadows? "Let them say what they want, Mia," Mary finally replied, her tone firm. "What matters is how we fight back together." Mr. Patterson nodded, his expression resolute. "We need to rally the support of everyone. I've already reached out to a few people who were at the meeting. If we can gather more voices, we can show them we won't back down." Mary thought of their neighbors, relaxing at home after work, or the children playing in the park. What if they were consumed by fear, failing to see the duty they had to come together? She felt a surge of determination. What if we hold a gathering in the park? Invite everyone. Let them share their concerns and feelings. We can show them that our community actually means something. Mr. Patterson smiled, clearly impressed. That's the spirit. A good old-fashioned cookout would go a long way. Let us make it happen, Mary said, squeezing her fists. We'll recreate that spirit from the last meeting. We can't let fear win. We need to stand strong. With plans brewing, Mary felt the first hints of hope flicker in her chest. They would make their voices heard. She imagined the community coming together, sharing stories over plates of grilled burgers and laughter. Mom, can we have ice cream? Jamie said, his eyes lighting up at the thought. Of course, but only if you help me set things up, all right? As Jamie nodded eagerly, the room felt a little brighter. But just as their excitement bubbled, a shout echoed from outside, piercing the hopeful moment. Mary hurried to the window, spotting a group of people gathering in the street, their faces filled with urgency. What's happening out there? Mia asked, her voice trembling again. Stay here. Mary instructed, her mind racing. She pushed the door open and stepped onto the porch. The air suddenly felt colder, a sharp contrast to the warmth they had just experienced. A man stood in the center of the crowd, waving his arms wildly. His voice was loud, full of passion. They're trying to silence us. We can't let them take our homes away. Mary felt her heart skip a beat. Was this the force they needed? Or a stirring of deeper unrest? Mom, what are they talking about? Jamie asked, confused. Let us listen, she whispered back, apprehension growing inside her. As the crowd murmured and tensions flared, a chilling thought crossed her mind. What if this was just the beginning? What if their struggle was far more complicated than she had ever anticipated? Maybe it's time to find out, she muttered under her breath, stepping further into the chaos. But what would she discover in this chaotic moment? Mary stepped cautiously into the throng, her heart racing. The crowd was restless, undulating like a sea of uncertainty. Faces turned towards her, some filled with hope, others laced with fear. She took a deep breath, summoning her courage. The man in the center continued to speak, his voice sharp with conviction. We need to fight for what's ours. They want to displace us, to take our community away. We can't let that happen. Stand up with me. With each word, Mary felt the spark of anger ignite within her. It wasn't just her family or her home, it was everything they had built together in this town. People who had shared barbecues, laughs, and sorrows, now faced an uncertain future. Who's going to join us? He implored, looking around for support. We need more than just a few voices to be heard. Mary exchanged glances with Mr. Patterson, who nodded. This was their chance to unify, to stand together. Everyone. She called, stepping closer to the crowd. This is our home. We've been silent for too long. More faces turned toward her. She could see Jamie watching, eyes wide, a mix of pride and confusion. In that moment, Mary understood the weight of her role. She wasn't just a mother or neighbor, she was a beacon of change. A woman stepped forward from the back, her voice trembling but resolute. I'm scared, she said, shifting nervously on her feet. What if they come for us? What if they make us leave? Mary felt a rush of compassion for the woman. I know it's scary. But look around you. We're not alone. Together, we can raise our voices until they hear us. We can show them we won't be sidelined. The chant grew louder, fueled by fear but also by hope. We will not be moved. Mia grasped Mary's leg tightly, peeking out to gauge the energy of the crowd. Mary knelt down to her, brushing a loose strand of hair behind her ear. This is what fighting for our home looks like. We're making sure you and Jamie have a future here. Just then, a shift in the crowd caught their attention. A group of men approached, their hands shoved deep in their pockets, expressions guarded. Mary recognized a few of them, longtime residents who had kept their heads low while whispers of the impending changes circulated. One of the men, Tom, finally broke his stoic expression. Mary, do you really think we can stop them? He asked, his voice barely above a whisper yet laced with skepticism. Fear had a way of paralyzing even the strongest among them. I don't just think it, Mary replied, fixing him with a steady gaze. I believe in all of us. If we stand together, we're stronger than any corporation that thinks they can tear us apart. A murmur spread through the crowd, a hesitant sense of encouragement. It was like watching sprouts push through the soil after a long winter. They could grow together. Suddenly, a cracking sound erupted from behind, startling the group. Mary turned just in time to see several young men, faces twisted with anger, smashing signs of protest that had been propped along the roadside. They were trouble, and her stomach dropped. Why are they doing this? Jamie cried, fear tinging his voice. Because they don't understand what we're fighting for, Mary answered, fighting to keep her own fear at bay. But we won't back down. Just then, someone shouted from the back. We need to stand our ground. Show them we won't be scared into silence. Mary felt a rush of energy surge through the crowd. But the real question remained, would they be able to translate this energy into a real defense? Let us get our signs and make this gathering a statement. Mr. Patterson exclaimed, igniting excitement. With the tension climbing higher, Mary turned to Mia and Jamie. You two stay close. No matter what happens, I want you with me. With their resolve stealing, the crowd began chanting again, louder this time. United, they stepped toward the heart of their town, but a lingering sense of dread twisted in Mary's gut. The symbols of their community glowing with possibility, yet dark shadows loomed on the horizon. What would the evening's protests reveal? And would their voices truly be enough to make a stand? The sun dipped lower in the sky, casting a warm golden hue over the crowd as their chants filled the air, growing with the intensity of rising blood. Mary felt electrified, her heart beating wildly as they moved forward, united by shared purpose. Signs began to materialize, hastily painted messages of defiance waving in the breeze like flags of hope. Mia clutched tightly to Mary's side, while Jamie darted between the legs of the crowd, picking up on the tension and excitement both. He was still trying to process how and why their humble town had turned into a battleground for something so much larger than their little family. But when he caught Mary's eye, the fear in his face began to soften, and she saw a glimmer of determination spark within him. As they reached the central plaza, tension twisted deeper within Mary. The gathered townsfolk pressed closer, faces alight with anger and enthusiasm. Yet a cold current ran beneath the surface, a realization that the protesters were not without their divide. The group of men who had confronted them earlier now stood off to one side, their expressions still marred by confusion and doubt. Mary! Someone called from the rear. It was Lisa, her neighbor from across the street. What do we do if they come for us? Mary stepped forward. First, we need to make ourselves heard. We tell them, we belong here. We are not going anywhere. As if on cue, the shouts of the young men, who had vandalized their signs moments before, echoed from a distance, a taunting chant meant to intimidate. Mary's stomach tightened again, but she planted her feet firmly on the ground. She refused to yield the space to fear. Let us make a shield. Mr. Patterson bellowed, his voice rising above the ruckus. Shoulder to shoulder. We stand together. The atmosphere shifted. The crowd surged, packed like a promise, as neighbors linked arms, standing tall against the tumult they faced. They were fighting not just for their homes, but for the very essence of who they were, a tight-knit tapestry of lives woven together through shared memories. Mary heard the familiar sound of laughter. From the corner of her eye, she spotted old Mrs. Jenkins, who stood clutching a sign as if it were a lifebuoy. The woman's frailty confounded Mary with a wave of unexpected tenderness. She realized this battle wasn't just for the younger generation, it was for those who had paved their way, all those who had endured injustices quietly for so long. Together, everyone. On three. Mary called, a fierce energy flooding her voice. 1, 2, 3. We will not be moved. The crowd roared, each syllable ringing like a battle cry across the plaza, melding into a symphony of resilience. Then, a solid clap brought silence. A formidable figure stepped forth from the shadows of the buildings lining the square. It was Mr. Thompson, the mayor. The wind whipped around him, and the once expressing doubt in his eyes had hardened into something more resolute. "Mary," he said, his voice steady but laced with authority, "I feel the heat of this moment, but you need to understand the weight of the forces against us. They won't back down easily." Her hands clenched into fists at her side as the crowd began to murmur. "We have a choice," Mary interjected through the noise. "We either let fear divide us, or we fight together for what we love." But the mayor's gaze held a deeper truth, a secret unsaid that Mary sensed but couldn't quite grasp. "Or," he began slowly, gauging the crowd's reaction. "Or we can take this fight somewhere they never expect." A wave of confusion washed over the crowd as everyone turned to the mayor, anticipation hanging in the air. "What does he mean?" Jamie whispered, eyes darting between his mother and the mayor. Mary's heart raced, a flicker of realization dawning on her. What if this was about to become more than just a protest? "Every story has a turning point," the mayor continued, "and right now, we stand at ours." But as hope intertwined with uncertainty, Mary couldn't shake a creeping feeling. Was this the breakthrough they desperately wanted, or a trap? The evening stretched on, a tangible blend of hope and tension, as they stood on the brink of something monumental. What unexpected twist awaited within the shadows of the mayor's offer? The crowd buzzed with uncertainty, the air thick with possibilities. Mary felt a pulse of anxiety swirl inside her as all eyes focused on Mayor Thompson, a mixture of curiosity and suspicion etched into their faces. "What do you mean somewhere they never expect?" An older man shouted, breaking the silence. "We need answers." Mr. Thompson held up a hand for quiet, his expression firm yet somewhat weary. "I understand your apprehension. But if we're to combat this divide, we shouldn't fight in the open where they can pick us off one by one. We need to be strategic." A murmur rippled through the crowd. Jamie's grip on his mother's hand tightened, worry pooling in his wide eyes. "I don't like the sound of that," he whispered, leaning closer to Mary. "What if it's a trap?" Mary bent down to meet his gaze, putting a reassuring hand on his shoulder. "We won't go anywhere until we know we're safe. We'll figure this out together." She addressed the crowd again, visible determination shining through. "Tell us what you have in mind, Mr. Mayor. We're listening." The mayor's brow lifted slightly, as if relieved to finally have sparked their attention. "There's an old community center at the edge of town, hidden behind some trees. It's been abandoned for years, but we can use it to plan our actions away from prying eyes. We'll take control of our narrative before they have a chance to distort it." A blend of suspicion and intrigue danced in the crowd. "Will we have enough people there?" A voice called from the back. Mary could feel the momentum shifting. "If we make it known, they will come. This is about all of us. We prove our strength in numbers." The crowd began to nod, their spirits rising once more. A quiet fire flickered in Mary's heart. They had come so far, and now was not the time for retreat. Mia chimed in, "What if we create a rally there? A gathering to show unity in our cause? It'll be our secret place, a fortress of hope." "Exactly!" Mary exclaimed, her energy igniting with her daughter's spark. "A safe place to plan and rally support. We can't let fear dictate our movements anymore." The chants began to swell again, this time with fiercer determination. "Together! Together!" they yelled. Each shout pulsed with the promise of security, of collective resolve. "Let us remember every battle changes us. And if we want to emerge stronger, we have to adapt," Mayor Thompson added, his voice steady and confident. Mary studied him closely now, as if for the first time she saw commitment etched in his features. The shadows of doubt that once clouded the crowd's mind began to lift. Hope was contagious, and she could feel it coursing through their veins. But just as passion started to surge, an unexpected sound sliced through the atmosphere. A loud crash echoed from the plaza's edge, and gasps erupted. A group of figures loomed in the distance, moving swiftly towards them. The chanting died down, uncertainty creeping back in. Are they coming for us? Jamie's voice quivered, fear flashing across his face once more. Mary's heart raced, but she forced herself to stay calm, locking eyes with her son. Stay close, she urged, tightening her grip on Mia's hand as well. Mr. Thompson, what do we do? Mary shouted above the rising panic as the newcomers advanced, their intentions unclear. Stick together. The mayor barked, finding his footing once again. We need to show them our resilience. As the figure leading the newcomers stepped into the dim light of the plaza, a collective gasp rippled through the crowd, revealing a face that stunned them all into silence. No one was prepared for the identity of the leader who had come to confront them. What had they stirred up by challenging the status quo? As the figure stepped forward, Mary's heart raced. Recognition swept through the crowd like wildfire. It was Tom Sweeney, a local businessman known for his ties to the developers, yet he now bore an air of desperation rather than confidence. Mary! He shouted, urgency clawing at his throat. We need to talk. This is getting out of hand. Wide eyes filled with apprehension darted between Mary and Tom, lingering on the palpable tension that shimmered between them. She took a slow step forward, pushing past the rising questions and uncertainty. Talk. You think we haven't done enough talking? Tom shifted uncomfortably. No, listen. The developers aren't the only ones who want to silence dissent. They've sent threats. Our community is being watched. A collective gasp rippled through the crowd, fear tightening in the shadows of their hearts. Mary felt a mixture of anger and concern bubbling within her, emotions surging like a high tide. Did they threaten you, Tom? I wish I could say no, he replied, running a hand through his hair. The wall of bravado that once defined him had collapsed, revealing a man as frightened as any of them. It's not just the signs. They've made it clear that anyone who stands in their way will pay the price. But what? The crowd clamored, fueled with uncertainty and anticipation. Unity is our only path forward, he said. I know what I've aligned myself with, and I'm sorry. But if we want any chance of keeping our homes, we have to meet them, negotiate, use the leverage we have. It's time to change the narrative. Mary's pulse quickened. Negotiation? Was that even possible? So you're saying we meet them on their terms? No, he replied, voice steadying. We invite them here, in a public forum. Let our community confront them together. The crowd buzzed with murmurings. Some were hesitant, others fired up, the very essence of conflict swirling within. What do you all think? Mary shouted above the din. Are we ready to take that step? We can't let fear keep us silent, someone yelled back. We're not backing down. Another voice joined in. Encouraged, Mary pressed on. Then it's settled. We'll gather together, put our strength into this. But we'll do it on our terms. The crowd erupted into agreement, a roar gathering momentum, igniting sparks of defiance in each heart. Mia and Jamie stood by her side, their eyes bright with wonder as they absorbed the energy around them. Mary reached down, squeezing their little hands, grateful for their innocence. They didn't understand the weight of the world hovering over them, but they were there, embodying the gleaming hope she carried within. Tom, she said firmly. If we're doing this, you're in it with us, not against us. He nodded, resolve filling his gaze. I understand the consequences. But I can't sit back while this threatens to unravel everything. Together, a fresh wave of determination swept through the crowd, the tension bleeding into an electrifying resolve. They could transform this moment of vulnerability into a standing point, a united front. As the sun lowered towards the horizon, casting warm oranges and purples across the sky. The vibrancy of community seemed to come alive before their eyes. Days turned into strategic meetings, plans formulated within the shrouded walls of the old community center. The power of hope shifted the dynamic, stories poured out late into the night, laughter mixed with tears as every individual played their part. On the day of the public forum, the plaza bloomed with life. People poured in, igniting a spark of collective courage. Mary took a deep breath, heart swelling as she scanned the gathering. Their tight-knit community, once fractured, now stood together, a fortress of strength. A patchwork of history and resilience. The podium stood ready, the air thick with anticipation. This was about more than just housing. This was about reclaiming their lives, their stories, their dignity. As the developers arrived, Mary's voice rose over the crowd. Today, we shine a light on our struggles. We seek to be heard. One by one, faces filled the screen, sharing their narratives, a chorus of voices echoing through the plaza and into the hearts of those who would listen. As they spoke, the crowd surged as fear melted into solidarity with every sentence. And when the developers attempted to sway public opinion, they met fierce resistance, not just from Mary, but from every brave soul standing in unified strength. The community wasn't defined merely by where they lived, they were woven together by an unwavering dedication to one another. With each moment, the fear that had once haunted them receded, replaced instead by unity, hope, and a deep-rooted sense of identity. In the end, they didn't just save their homes, they forged bonds that transcended their differences, harnessing the powerful strength of their shared humanity. As the sun set that evening, painting the horizon with brilliant hues, Mary smiled. She looked at her children, then at her friends, each radiant face reflecting hope. Our journey doesn't end here, she whispered, the weight lifting as new beginnings came into view. This is just the start. Together, they would continue thriving not just for themselves, but for generations to come. If this story moved you, then now is the time to take action. You need to subscribe immediately to our channel to not miss out on the next exclusive stories that will inspire and uplift you. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm, because you know it makes a difference. Don't hold back, comment your reactions and feelings about this ending. Your voice matters. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to witness this incredible transformation. You'll be helping spread the message of hope and unity. This is the moment to show your support and be part of our growing community.